Hey, this is Van Allen Plexico of the White Rocket Entertainment Network, and you're listening to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast, special edition, 5 Minutes of Fire. We are here talking about the lyrics of We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. We're covering only 5 minutes at a time, which is about the length of the song, so it works out kind of nicely. So please join us as we dive into some new lyrics today.
All right, guys, so here are the topics that we're going to be covering today.
Princess Grace.
Peyton Place.
Trouble in the Suez.
Princess Grace, Peyton Place, trouble in the Suez. We didn't start the fire.
Okay, D, tell me about Princess Grace.
Okay, Princess Grace is Grace Kelly. She was an actress. She had been in multiple movies, and then she teamed up with Alfred Hitchcock and was in Dial M for Murder in 1954, Rear Window in 1954 as well, and To Catch a Thief in 1955. Then, on a kind of detour from going to the Cannes Film Festival, she was supposed to go do a modeling gig with the Prince of Monaco named Prince Rainier, and short time later, they were getting engaged.
Interesting.
At 26 years of age, she retired from acting, unbeknownst to herself, because she thought she was going to keep going, and married Prince Rainier in one of the biggest ceremonies in the history of royal weddings. Now, the side story on this is Monaco was in this agreement with France that it would remain independent so long as there was a monarchy in place, which meant Prince Rainier had to have heirs. Grace Kelly actually went through a physical exam to make sure that she could have kids before they actually got married. And then once they got married, she did. We had Princess Caroline, Prince Albert, and Princess Stephanie. And ultimately in 1982, she was driving in a car with Princess Stephanie. She suffered a mild cerebral hemorrhage, which caused her to lose control of the car, which resulted in more injuries to her, which ultimately led to her death in 1982. All right, tell me about Peyton Place.
Okay, Peyton Place is a novel written in 1956 by Grace Tallias. Hoping I'm saying that right. It's set in a fictional New England town called Peyton Place. It is a notoriously lascivious book containing themes of incest, sex, lust, murder, abortion, and adultery, all set in this small conservative town. It sold 60,000 copies in the first 10 days and was a New York Times bestseller for 59 weeks. It's been adapted into movies, TV shows, and soap operas. The author, Grace Metelius, she died from cirrhosis of the liver at age 39. Sandra Bullock was actually slated to portray her in a biopic, but unfortunately it was never made. Very impactful book for the 1960s. Okay, D, tell me about Trouble in the Suez.
All right, so this refers to the Suez Canal crisis. Now, I mentioned Nasser, the second president of Egypt, in one of our prior episodes. This is when the match hits the gasoline, if you will. So the Suez Canal was owned by a company called the Suez Canal Company, which that company was mostly owned by the UK and France. During the Cold War, Nasser would not pledge allegiance to either the US or the Soviet Union, which really made the US mad. And so they said, you know what, we're not going to give you the money that we promised to give you since you won't align with anybody. And the UK said, yeah, we're not going to give you any money either. And so Nasser was like, okay, well then we're going to nationalize the Suez Canal, which means the Egypt government is going to take over control of it. So UK and France are now like, what? No, what? And they're freaking out. And so the UK, France, and Israel all team up. They huddle up. They're like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Israel, you go invade Egypt and take over the Suez Canal, and then we'll come in as peacemakers and we'll say, okay, well, we're going to stay here and make sure that the Suez Canal isn't causing any trouble anymore. So Israel's like, okay, that's fine. I mean, really what we're more interested in the Straits of Tiran, because Egypt's been blocking them for 8 years. But now that they've nationalized the Suez Canal, we got nowhere to go. So yes, we will invade. So on October 29th, 1956, Israel attacks, and they are storming the place. I mean, they're taking out everybody. And then the very next day, the UK and France, they issue this statement that they're like, hey, you naughty, naughty boys, Israel and Egypt, you've been very bad, and we're going to have to come in and take over and make sure things go okay. And then they get a phone call from Israel, and they're like, we're still 40 miles away from the Suez Canal. And at that point, the whole world realizes that the UK and France were in on this invasion of Egypt, and the world is pissed, including the U.S., who's like, nobody thought to pick up the phone and let us know what's going on here. And so Dwight Eisenhower says to the UK, you know what? I think we're going to sell all of our sterling bonds, which is going to tank your British pound. How about we do that? And they're like, oh, okay, wait, sorry. And France kind of followed suit. But Israel, who looked like a complete badass, said, nope, we're sticking around because they still have both of these trade routes blocked. And we came in and won. So we're going to stay here until something gets figured out. So they stayed there for 4 months. Finally, an agreement was reached and the Straits of Tehran were opened up for them after an 8-year blockade. But this signified the end of the UK as a world power because established that if they want to do something, they better talk to us first. Okay, guys, that does it for today's episode. Join us next time for 5 Minutes of Fire. Grace Kelly.
That's Gary Cooper, asshole.